Hi NFT Twitter, we me back at it. Today we're covering a topic that has been brought up for quite some time and I've been posting about it quite some time, and we're going to take a look at signature scams again. Yesterday I posted this thread about how we can actually spot a signature scam that is going on or that would be going on if we don't take the right actions. This is the thread coming alongside with it, and I'm just sharing the video so I can explain a bit more in detail, so bear with me, this is going to be a bit more lengthy one. The moment you're trying to sell something on Opensea, you will have to sign a listing. Before we dive into this, I just want to say we're talking about already approved collections to Opensea right here, so that you just have to do a listing, and that way you are vulnerable to this kind of attack that is going on. So we're not talking about wrapped ether offers, or we're not talking about freshly approving a collection. We're talking about approvals that were already given on the wallet that you're signing this stuff with. So in this recording right here, you see a fake other side website, and the moment I try to mint another deed, right here, the wallet gets me this message: we're interacting with Seaport version 1.1, and then chain ID, verifying contract, message. So an offerer, like on the right here, is the biggest red flag that you're looking for, because you should know immediately if you see something like this with an offerer included on a website like this, you will be offering some stuff to a wallet or to a contract or to whoever put the code in there, right? If you're on a website that is not a marketplace and you're not intending to sell anything at that given moment, please, the moment you see offerer, decline the transaction and run as fast as you can, because they are trying to scam you. Before we take a closer look at how the scam signature would look like in this case, we're actually looking at how a legit signature would be looking like first. So this was an actual listing of myself to one of my wallets. So the first thing you will recognize is in the upper right of this one, you will see that the Seaport is used as a header. And this will always show up even if you're on a scam website, because this is basically just calling the contract that you're interacting with. And sadly, all the bad actors are making use of the Seaport contract at the moment. But the number one learning here should be that the origin is always opensea.io if it's coming from a legit website, or in this case, if it's coming from the legit Opensea marketplace. As a comparison, we see that we're clearly not on an official marketplace right here, because we are on some fake other side website, but we still get prompted with an offerer in this message, right? So we're offering something probably. And you see that the origin in this signature wouldn't be opensea.io, but it would be other side October XYZ, which was the scam website when I recorded this. So please, okay, back to the MetaMask extension and how an actual signature would look like if you list something to Opensea. Note, in this case, I put a price of 0 ETH in here because I'm going to show you how an actual scam would be operating. So for better visibility, I will put the whole message that is on the right here into a text editor so we can read it better. This would be the whole signature that would need to be signed for the case that I just showed you in my browser. So let's go through this, right? Note, the offerer is always a wallet address that is signing the listing or the signature. In this case, it would have to be a wallet that already has got open approvals to Opensea. Otherwise, we couldn't use it to list anything without paying a gas fee, right? And this is all about gasless transactions, like doing a relisting, as I said in the beginning. Then we have two inputs. We have an offer and we have the consideration. Looking at the offer first, we see that 0 is basically just a number that is counting up if you have more than one item in here. Item type 2, meaning it's an ERC721 token. Item type 1 is an ERC20, and item type 0 is the native token of the chain, which in this case would be ETH. Then we see what kind of token gets offered. And to make it really clear in this video, I'm gonna walk you through this actually right now. You can copy the address of the token and then paste it into Etherscan. And on Etherscan, you will see that this one is the token of Hatchlings, which I just listed in the browser instance I showed you before. Back to the editor, identifier or criteria would in this case be the ID of the token. So this is Hatchlings number 334, token ID basically. Start amount is 1, end amount is 1, because the token is obviously unique. We don't own 2 of the 334 IDs, which would make a non-fungible token fungible, right? Now let's talk about consideration, and here is where the danger lies. I'm not a native English speaker, so consideration is a bit of a weird terminology to use here for me. But consideration is also a reward or a payment, and in this case this makes more sense to me because for an offer we would expect some kind of reward or payment, right? But let's see what this one says. It says item type 2 again, which is an ERC 721. We already learned that. It's the same token. It's the same token ID. It's the same start and end amount, and the recipient is a wallet address. And that's it. There are no additional specifications for this listing. So this would mean we offer this in consideration for this, which means we offer an NFT and the consideration is there's a recipient and nothing else. So the recipient receives the NFT for free, for nothing, because we didn't ask for anything in the signature. Everything starting here at start time, end time, order type, zone hash, salt, conduit key, blah blah blah. It's not that relevant from a non-technical point of view, so I'm not going to cover it in this video. And honestly, I don't know everything about this kind of hashes that I used down here, but just note, if you're signing a signature that does a listing, then this kind of stuff will be added, at least if you're using Seaport, which is the OpenSea protocol. Okay, so now we know what a listing that would be offering an NFT for 0 ETH to a specific wallet address would look like, right? And as I stated here, this is an 0 ETH listing to myself because I declared a wallet in here, which I didn't show in the editor. Alright, so let's take a look at a standard listing signature with an actual listing where we would expect to get a kind of payment or reward in return, right? So this is a price listing of 0.1 ETH, private listing again, because that's how the scammers are operating. You can already see that this kind of message is way longer than the older one. And we are looking at the signature as a whole in the editor again to make it more readable. Let's look at the legit standard listing signature. And always keep in mind this is a private listing to a specified wallet because that's the way that scammers are using the signature scam for their advantage. This is the whole signature if we're doing a legit listing. So it's pretty long. And if we just compare to the other one we just signed before, it's way shorter than the actual one that looks legit, right? But let's dive into it. We got the offer again. Offer item 0, it's the token again, no wonder, the hatchling 334, amount of 1. But here is where it gets interesting. We're looking at the consideration now, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 consideration items in an actual listing. I'm going to explain why. The first consideration item that is considered is an item type of 0. I said it before, item type of 0 means this is the native token of the chain, which is in this case Ethereum. Item type 1 would be an ERC20 token, item type 2 is an ERC 721 token, item type 3 is an ERC 1155, and so on. So the consideration item number 0, or number 1 to make more sense, is an item type of ETH, the token of ETH, and we're looking for a start amount of 945,000,000 blah blah blah. I want you to fully grasp this concept this time, and you're seeing that I put a price of 0.1 ETH in here as an asking price, right? But as we all know, we have to pay fees and royalties in OpenSea, so we don't get the full 0.1 if we sell this NFT. So if we then look at the start amount that we have here and copy this into Etherscan into the unit converter, into the wave field, which is interacting with smart contracts, as you can read above. And then you can see it's putting out all these numbers here, right? And we can see ETH, this is what we were looking for. It's 0.0945 that we would be getting as a net profit if we sell this NFT for 0.1 ETH. Because there are more consideration items here. There's another consideration item who receives ETH. And if we look up the recipient in this case and copy this into Etherscan again, then we can see this goes to OpenSea fees 3. I would assume they have more contracts to handle fees, so this is OpenSea fees 3. Probably there are 1, 2, 3, I don't know, 10, 50, whatever. This is OpenSea receiving their royalty share, which is 2.5%, which makes sense if we have an asking price of 0.1 ETH. Just to do some repetition, let's do this. Let's put this in the way calculator again. And here we see that OpenSea would get a share of 0.0025 ETH for this specific sale listed for 0.1 ETH, which makes sense because they get 2.5%, right? There's also another consideration item which receives ETH, as we can see here. standard token. They receive a bit more than Opensea, which obviously would this time be 0.003. And let's see who this recipient is. Pull up Etherscan again, search for it, and then we see a wallet, and we probably don't see much here, but if we click on ERC 721 tokens, we see that this wallet has been receiving the funds for the mint of the hatchlings. Just to make this more clear, I attached a screenshot here where you can see the fees, the service fee, which goes to Opensea for 2.5%, and the creator fee, which goes as a royalty to the project, which is 3%, and that is what we just looked at the code. Now that we got the ETH distribution out of the way, we have this item type left, and this is the actual transfer of the NFT. Because here we see again, we have the token type 2, which is an ERC 721, the token address, which is the hatchlings one, the token ID 334, already seen that before, start amount, end amount of 1, and the recipient, which is in this case a buyer's wallet, because we would receive something in return, right? Again, down here, start time, end time, and so on. We're just skipping over that in this video. It's already long enough. All right, let's come back to the actual scamming signature. And this is what the signature looks like if I copy it into my editor. It's a long one, but it's not as long as you would expect maybe. And that has a reason. Obviously, we learned by now that there's always an offerer to a listing, which is again the wallet signing the listing or the signature. And in this offer, there are the items included that we would be offering when signing the signature. There's a lot of tokens, as you can see. And if we just go ahead and take a look at the first token, go to Etherscan again, paste it, search it, and then we see this is a Bored Ape Yacht Club token. Oh. This would actually be the Bored Ape Yacht Club token 8867. So it is a Bored Ape that would get stolen here. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, because this listing would include different collections that are already approved from that wallet that would be signing this listing or the signature, right? So if you have any open approvals to Opensea, to the Seaport contract, and you don't pay attention to what you're signing, and you're signing an offer listing to someone, you're putting yourself at risk with all the stuff that you already got approved to Opensea. And I want to make that point really clear by looking this token ID up. You can see this is an item type 1, which means it's an ERC20 token. And if we paste that address into Etherscan again, we see that it's the Centra USD coin. So this is a stable coin USDC with an amount of, in this case, 39,863 USDC dollars. So this is some kind of weird format for the non-decimals, right? This wallet would be approving a Bored Ape, $39,000 of USDC and more. If you're still watching at this point, I really want to hit this point home, and we're going to look up two other tokens. This one, as we got two of these, so this is a collection like affected twice. Put it into Etherscan again, and we see that this one is the Moonbird collection. We're losing Moonbird 2324 and 9748 if you would be signing this. Remember, this is a scamming signature. And one last thing I want you to know, down here is another item type 1. Let's search this one on Etherscan again. And as you can see, this one is wrapped Ether or WETH. So not only would they take your Bored Ape Yacht Club token, not only would they take your USDC coins, not only would they take your Moonbirds, there's more in this signature, but I'm not going to go over everything. They would also be taking your wrapped Ether. And if you want to know how much WETH this actually is, just copy it again and put it into the unit converter at Etherscan. Put it in the way one, and we will see that this one would be 3.43 ETH, which then would be wrapped ETH. But we're also losing 3.5 ETH roughly. But honestly, to this point, the signature could look legit to you because we're just offering stuff. And we didn't see the consideration items yet, right? So as we learned, if we do a legit sale, Opensea will always get their fee share, and probably your project will always get their royalties. So for one token sold, you would have 4 consideration items. You would have the token that you receive for selling. You would have the token that Opensea received for their service. You would have the royalty that your project would receive as a share, and then you would have the consideration item that is the token again, which is then transferred to a recipient. So let's take a look at how these consideration items are looking in a scamming signature. I'm just going to scroll down a bit, and you already see down here the signature for the consideration items is over. Sorry for the display here, but I can't fit this into one screen and make it still readable. So the consideration items, they look wrong, right? You should have seen by now that we only got 8 consideration items, 0 to 7. And as we just learned, for a legit listing or legit sale listing, we would at least expect 16 of those appearing here. At least we would expect a consideration item from us receiving the token that we want, and then at least transferring the transfer out to a specific recipient, right? Most of the time OpenSea will also charge the fee because that's how they are operating. And most of the time the project will also charge royalties, so you would expect to at least see 3 items on one sale, if not 4. And we see that we just got 0 to 7 as I just said, and this means if we look at the offer again, it's also 0 to 7. To make a long story short, this would be offering all of our assets for free, for 0 ETH, for nada to this scamming wallet, because all that has to be done here is to get these tokens to a recipient to fulfill this order. Because the consideration items, those are what needs to be received by who in order to take the offered items. And since this signature is not asking for anything in return for transferring the tokens and NFTs to this wallet address, which is a scamming wallet address by the way, we are basically handing them over for free. So this is why you need to know what you're signing, especially if you're looking at listing signatures. Remember what I told you when I started the video? Red flag number 1, an offerer in a signature that pops up on a site that is not a marketplace. So I conclude the thread with the TLDR, and I'm going to read over it because I want you to really grasp that concept. The takeaways for listing signatures are: make sure the offerer is the wallet address that wants to list items. Which means if you're listing something, the first line should always be the address that you want to list something with. 2. The offer contains everything you, the offerer, is spending, which means if it's in the offer, it's going to be spent if the consideration items are met. And 3. A consideration is what needs to be received and by who in order to take the offer items. This is what I just told you. With a legit listing, there should be more than 1 consideration item for 1 token only. So checks you can do for listing signatures is: check that you have the right wallet selected and you don't use the wrong account. Check that there are no NFTs or ERC20s in the offer items you don't want to sell. And your wallet address should always be the number 1 consideration item, and the token you are asking for should appear there. So if you're trying to sell something in ETH, then it should look like this, that you receive a token that you defined as a consideration item. And not only the NFT or token is set as a consideration item itself. That way you're giving it away for free. And I want to cover the last post. Thanks for 0H for the exchange during this write-up. We were chatting back and forth when I did the thread that I used as a script for this video now. And as you can see, I'm planning to do a video on this topic to explain it a bit more detailed visuals. I hope I did it in a way that everyone can understand what they should be looking for. And one other thing I mentioned here is the revoke.cash browser extension made by Roscoe Callis. Huge shout out to Roscoe. If you would be using this extension, I'm not telling everyone to use a browser extension, by the way. I'm not recommending that because I want you to learn and look at what you're actually signing. As a conclusion, I want to show you what the revoke.cash browser extension would have intercepted if you would have clicked on mint, and then before the signature even gets brought up to your wallet, this pops up. And you see what we just went through. You see that we would be selling our Bored Ape Yacht Club token 8867, 39,000 USDC coins, 2 Moonbirds, 2 CloneX, 1 Meebit, and 3.5 WETH roughly. And we would be receiving, after fees, 0.0 ETH. It's not funny at all, but just imagine the owner of this actual wallet, this is not my wallet by the way, would have been signing this. They would be devastated, right? So the signature scam is really awkward and it can really hurt you and your wallet and your assets. One thing I want you to consider is to take wallet separation in your thoughts. And if you want to learn more on wallet separation, you can always visit us at the Boring Security DAO. I'm a contributor of that group. We're doing free NFT 101 security courses there. So if you want to learn more on this kind of stuff, make sure to give us a follow at BoringSecDAO on Twitter. All right, everyone. Hope you learned something today. Thanks for bearing with me through this long video. But I really wanted to explain this in detail so everyone knows what they are looking at if they get prompted with a listing signature. Stay safe, guys. Have a great day.